In this video, I want to take a look at a game which I played against the same opponent that I've been playing for the past few videos. And I'm happy to say that I've officially adopted him. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, it simply means that I've beaten him at least 10 games in a row. In my case, it would be 11. So maybe in a couple of weeks it'll be a double adoption, 20 games in a row. We'll see. And well, I decided to play the same opening that he played against me with the white pieces, because well, if I just play my usual stuff, it just gets kind of boring for me, because I'm just gonna crush him, and this way it's just more interesting. So the center game, which I don't usually play, and I played it differently than what he played. I will link to the video in the description. So in that video, he played queen to d1. Here I played a queen c4. I know the more popular move is queen e3, and I thought queen c4 was like the third most popular move, and objectively I thought that it was not as good a move as some of the other moves, but apparently this move is like the second best move. But I just wanted to play it because I didn't want to play the best continuation, and I didn't really look at the theory, so I just wanted to have some fun. And well, what better way to do that than to not play the best moves? So here my opponent played knight f6, and I played bishop g5. Now, after analyzing this game, apparently the main line, or at least the alt main line, I don't know if it's still relevant today, but it goes knight c3, d5, takes, and knight b4. And apparently this is a novelty. I don't think there's really any master games with this move, so that makes sense because the engine already says that black is slightly better. And well, here I just continued developing. My opponent castled, and I didn't want my king to be stuck in the center for too long, because well, if I take two tempi to move out the knight and then the bishop, then my opponent might end up playing d5 at some point, maybe prepare it with rook e8. Maybe it doesn't work right away, but just the fact that my opponent might be able to sacrifice a pawn just to open up the lines against my king, and well, that would just be stupid against such a much lower rated player. So I decided to make things very double-edged by castling queenside. And after this move, I just didn't like my position. I was like, well, now I know why queen c4 is not such a great move, because I thought the knight on e5 is just really annoying. Potentially you could have one of the knights just coming to g4, but the engines actually don't like this move. They say you just play d6, and if white just continues normal development, bishop e6, and our black should be slightly better, because well, this bishop is just blocked in. This queen has been moving around too many times. So I was actually pretty surprised by this because right after I castled, I was like, oh, 95, that's just annoying. And I just didn't like my position at all. So it goes to show that when you're not familiar with the opening and then you get these positions that you've never seen before, you can misevaluate the position. Because, in fact, after 95, the engine's like white. And well, now my opponent plays d6, which makes sense. I played f3 because I want to go g4 and maybe h4, h5. I mean, this is just like standard strategy when you castle on opposite sides. You basically just push the pawns, and whoever gets there first pretty much just wins the game. I briefly considered this move, but I rejected it because of bishop g4. But actually, I suppose if I had more experience with these types of positions, I would have figured out that knight f3 is actually good for me, because the knight pretty much has to retreat. If you take, well then, after the bishop goes back, say to d7, now the rook has this very nice open file to attack the king. And well, this bishop is extremely passive. It actually can't move, so that I just look at the evaluation. Visually, it just looks very good. But instead, I decided to slow play it because, well, again, I wasn't worried about my opponent coming up with something crazy. And this move I just hate. I mean, I hate it for black. It's good for me, but I just thought it was a bad move. Especially because of the follow-up. If the follow-up had been a little bit different, then okay, maybe you could argue that it's actually not really a mistake, maybe an inaccuracy, but still playable. After h4, my opponent played a6. If you're gonna play a6, I think it would have been better to just not move the rook and just leave it on the a8 square. But after a6, I just no. I think you have to go b5 right away and just sacrifice the pawn, which is not a pawn I really want to take. I mean, I would not really want to play knight b5. In fact, I don't think I would have played it, just because, again, sacrificing the pawn, it just opens up this file, allows this bishop to potentially come out. I mean, it just pins the knight. So, yeah. And, well, I just continue playing h5 because, well, the queen on e2 pretty much stops me from developing this bishop, which it was actually really annoying. It was not easy for me to really come up with a good plan. And, well, putting the knight on h3 was not really something I was thrilled about, because, well, it gets in the way of the work. And, well, I was really hoping that I could at some point move the queen and put the knight on e2, or maybe go f4 and put the knight on f3, but here my opponent went h6, and while it does stop me from playing h6, which is probably a good thing, it does create this slight weakness on the g6 square. And here my opponent played bishop e6, which again, I just don't think you don't have the time to play bishop e6. I think you really have to play b5 immediately, because otherwise white is just too fast. So after this I played g4, and yeah, this next move I think is just a waste of time. King h7. You could make the argument that this move is the losing move because it just gives up a critical tempo. Now my opponent could have played this, which is similar to what happened in the game. So knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. Now here there's a few moves, so this line is not forced, but it's just an example of what could have happened. So white loses the exchange, and well, this knight on f5 is actually really good. So I mean, you can look at the evaluation that white has a slight advantage, even though material is better for black, because again the rook can come to the g file, putting pressure on g7, and well, you could even put the queen on g2, just again putting more pressure down the line. So this rook not really doing much. I mean, the rooks only have one semi-open file, and it's gonna take a lot of tempi to move one of the rooks here and then double up. I guess you have to go to e6 because of the knight. So because this knight has a really nice outpost, that's what gives the compensation for the material. And well, now I went knight h3 because my idea was to go g5, and if takes, knight takes with check, and I should be winning in that position. But my opponent did not allow that, and after I played knight h3, I realized that my opponent could play this move, and well, he did, in fact. Although I wasn't really calculating that much, but I did wonder if it made a difference which of the knights took the pawn. And well, before I could analyze it, he played it, but it does make a difference. He actually took with the wrong knight. This is the correct continuation, taking with the knight on f6. After takes, you win the exchange, and well, the position is about equal, maybe about a half a pawn advantage for white, but nothing really more than that. But it's a very interesting position. I mean, during the game I was not sure how to evaluate the position, simply because it's the two minor pieces, two knights for the rook and two pawns. But the point is that the two pawns are, on the king side. If there were these pawns, then it's a different story, because my king would be exposed. But now you're basically opening up lines for me to attack your king. So but again, he took with the wrong knight, and after bishop takes, instead of going something like queen g2 or queen h3 or queen f2, I have queen d3 with the threat of e5, gaining back the piece, or so really the threat of taking the exchange is not really a threat. Now here the best move is just to go back with the knight first, and well, basically just giving up on the idea of getting the rook. And well, after this, Stockfish already says that white is winning, but well, it's not so simple, and I think this is a better practical choice than what happened in the game. Instead, my opponent took immediately, which allowed me to play this move. So check, and here my opponent blundered, and now not really is looking rather hopeless after g6. You have to go either to h8 or g8, and well, after takes, knight takes, and well, this is just a matter of time before black resigns. And well, after this, you could see that I wasn't really playing that well. This is almost like a puzzle of the week. I mean, you could take the knight, you could take here with check, or you could take the bishop that's hanging, so it's a lot to calculate. And well, I knew I was winning, but I figured, well, if I take the knight, I'm still have the threat of taking the bishop, which would be attacking both the queen and the rook, so black would have to take back, and then I could figure out whether I want to take the bishop or take on g6 with check. Because taking the pawn with check, I thought, well, maybe I'm trying to get a little too fancy, and it might just blow up in my face, and maybe I'll miss something and just screw up my position. But no, taking is just the best move, because well, the king has to go back. If you take, which is the most natural thing to do, you have knight check. Obviously the pawn is pinned, so you cannot take the knight, and after the king moves, you drop the queen, and if the king goes to another square that's not g7, well, you just get mated in 3 moves. So yeah, I missed that, but you know, it happens. And after bishop takes, again, I did not play the best continuation. I took the bishop. Taking is just winning, but not because of the same move as before, but because of knight f4. You have the threat of taking with the queen, which would pretty much be checkmate in 2 moves, I believe. So you have to stop that with queen e8. And well, here you can't even take with the queen, because check and mate. So again, something I should have seen but did not. And here my opponent played this move, which the engines hate. They think that you have to play g5, and well, it's still pretty bad. If you let it run to like depth 22, it's gonna be like plus 7. I mean, this is just crushing, but g5 is actually the most logical defensive move, because it pretty much stops the blockade, or blockades my pieces, I should say. And well, here I just took, and well, here I played the best move, and the engines are like, yeah, that's a nice move. Bishop takes. The point is that you can't take because, well, you get mated. But my opponent took. I warned him. I pretty much told him, you know, like, if you take, you're probably gonna get mated. And well, again, this is a casual game, so yeah, we talked. And here I played knight g5, and my opponent wanted to take the knight, and I was like, well, you're probably gonna get mated if you take the knight. I'm like 99% sure that it's like forced mate if you take the knight, which it is. It's like mate in 8. So, I mean, you have this, check, and then it's like mate in 6. So he goes back, I check, and here he should have played a king f8. Instead he went king g8, and now it's mate in 3. Oh, because of the rook. Yeah. Computer move, just giving up your pieces. And yeah, that's how the game ended. But king f8 is actually pretty interesting, because the only move that gives white a plus 7 advantage is queen f3. Everything else is like queen d5 or knight g4 is plus 3. And well, if you play queen f3, the point is you're pinning the bishop, so which is very important, because that would be taking the knight with check. And well, once the queen leaves the d1 square, now the rook can come here with check. And well, if you can do that with black and then put the queen on, well, not e7 but maybe d8, e8, excuse me, then I think black is just winning because the material. So you actually have to play very precisely with white in order to win after king f8. If you start to play a little bit inaccurately, then you might be in a lot of trouble. Anyway, don't forget to like the video and share and subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you in the next video.